But switching gears here, let's go ahead and talk about some MLB. We know that the Cubs are coming off their 4-game series with the Dodgers. They split that 2-2. Cubs outscoring the Dodgers by 8 runs, 26-18. What are your guys' thoughts on that series? The Cubs kind of bounced back, especially the pitching was a lot better than it was against Cincinnati. Just go ahead and give me your thoughts, what you liked, what you didn't like.
Well, they didn't really get blown out in any of these games, which I really liked to see because they had a couple bad ones. They lost 2-1, they won 9-4, they lost 7-5, they won 11-5. My favorite thing in this, I've been saying it since we started this, Javi's been my player to watch, Javi Baez.
You've been saying that for the past couple weeks.
He's played outstanding. He was responsible for 13 of their 23 runs or something like that. He had an RBI, even though he went 0 for 3 in the game. They lost 2-1. He had 2 home runs. He was 4 for 5 with 5 RBIs in the second game. They won 9-4.
Triple shy of the cycle.
Yep. Outstanding. In the third game, they lost 5-7. He still had 2 runs, went 2 for 4. In the last game, they won 11-5. He was 3 for 5 with 2 runs scored and an RBI. He was accountable for over half of the runs that they scored in that 4-game series. Played absolutely outstanding. I don't think he had an error in that series. So offense and defense was just phenomenal. Javi, as far as I'm concerned, is all-star caliber right now, more than any other player in the middle infield. This season, he's batting .285. He's got 16 home runs and 57 RBI already. In the last 2 years, he batted .273 each season, and he had 23 home runs and 14 home runs in 17 and 16. He also had 75 RBI and 59 RBI in 17 and 16. So he's already at his numbers for the year for the last 2 seasons. I think he's playing just great, outstanding.
When you watch Javi at the plate, everything that he sees, he's just crushing. I mean, everything. You know, it used to be a couple years ago, me and you'd sit down and watch the Cubs game.
Javi's up.
Well, yes. Right now, the end of last season and this whole entire 2018 season, I'm like, okay, Javi's at the plate. Something's going to happen. Being a triple shy of the cycle, which we know he can run, he can hit them triples, and he's not afraid to run. Heck, how many times has he stolen home this year? 2 or 3? But anyway, watching him play this year, he's come through in the clutch so many times. It's just remarkable watching him grow as a player. His plate discipline is finally getting there. Whatever he's doing, you know, in the batting cage or, you know, off the tee or whatever he's doing, just working on that plate discipline, staying mentally tough in the situation, knowing that yes, he could come through with a big opportunity, come through in the clutch, but staying tough at the plate, you know, hitting hittable pitches instead of swinging something, you know, that's at his ankles or swinging at something that's 3 feet out of the strike zone to his right or above his head. So that being said, Javi is just, you know, really playing both sides of the ball just really well right now. The thing about my guy, Jason Hayward, he's been kind of hit or miss these last 10 games. He hasn't been playing very well. That's kind of a given. I don't know. He's kind of fallen back into his old ways. I still don't want to take any credit away from Jay Hay, basically for the fact that he has a rocket of an arm and he can make plays out there in the right field. But one thing I want to talk about real quick with you, though, before anything else, is Rizzo, Anthony Rizzo. Before he sat the game the other day, before Kershaw, because obviously Joe Madden doesn't want him to duck Kershaw because he hits pretty well, and he proved that yesterday. He was 2 for 22 in plate appearances. Like, he's right there with Chris Bryant. So our 2 best hitters in Bryant and Rizzo, with the Brizzo Souvenir Corps, they're just not hitting. What do you got about that?
They're not hitting home runs. They're not hitting singles. They're not taking walks. They're just getting out. I'm glad KB's on the DL right now. Not that he's hurt. I'm glad that he's getting a break, though. Yeah. So he can kind of gather himself, get back together, get healthy, so he can come back and focus. Rizzo, I don't know what's up with him.
He went through a slump earlier this year. Now he's back in another one.
Right.
Hopefully this game against
Usually
Kershaw,
2 hard slumps like that don't happen very much. But as you brought up right there, he batted well against Kershaw like he usually does. I'm really hoping that'll give him a strike of confidence to kind of bump him back up where he needs to be. Because 2 for 22, that's just not very good. Especially, he's always batting in the 3 or 4 spot because we need him there to clean up some runs and get us some points on the board. But I really don't know what to say about those two, how they're playing so far this year. They're always great players, outstanding on the defensive end, but their at-bats have just been not good.
One thing I will say, at least they are going through their slump right now. It's last week of June. We're getting into July. So I'm glad they're going through it right now. And hopefully after the All-Star break, everybody gets a break where, we don't really have to worry about slumps anymore. We're all rested. We're good to go. And we're getting, energized for the second half of the year. And we're going to make this playoff run, hopefully another World Series ring. But as of right now, they're not playing like a World Series contender. But Atlanta is.
Rough
Atlanta,
weeks.
Philly.
Yeah.
Philly's playing phenomenal baseball.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Philly because that's what I wanted to touch on real quick before we come back to the NL Central. The NL East, the Phillies and the Nats are playing right now a 4-game series. Phillies won game 1. Mm-hmm. If they end up sweeping the Nationals, they'll take a 5-game lead on Washington, which is very likely now. But then they would also be, depending on what happens with Atlanta, they would only be a couple games, maybe only even 1 game, or even tied with Atlanta for the first place in the division. What do you think the odds are of that happening, and how soon could the Phillies end up on top in the NL East?
We've talked about it before over the last couple weeks. Phillies came to play ball this year. Picking up Arrieta, big pickup for them. They're finally starting to come together as a team, and I really think that has to do with a little bit of Arrieta coming from the Cubs and that kind of winning mentality that they put together the last couple of years. I really think because the Phillies before they were just losers. They were awful. I think they were like 66 and 100.
Oh, last year they were awful.
Ever since 2008 when they went to the World Series.
Yep, and I think something has happened in that locker room that they've all just kind of meshed together and it's working, and they're playing outstanding. And if they keep it up, they're going to pass the Braves in no time. They're going to be on top of the NL Central by a few games in a hurry. I don't think there's any doubt about that if they keep it up.
What does this mean for Washington going forward? If you're 7 games back from the 2 seed in your division, and you don't have Strasburg, right?
Yep, Steven Strasburg.
And he's on the DL right now. What do you do? I mean, is there any hope for you? Maybe even making a wild card spot at this point, or
no, not really. They still got Scherzer, Trevor Roark. Trevor Roark's rocking some sweet facial hair. He's got the handlebar mustache rolling there. I love those. But anyway, Trevor with Strasburg on the bench, disabled. You lost your second ace. Essentially, They've got 2 aces in Scherzer and Strasburg. But no, I feel like they're not going to make a playoff run. I feel like they're putting themselves so far in a hole they're not going to get out of. But this is going to help the Cubs for one thing and one thing only. Bryce Harper is still crushing the ball, and they're so bad right now that they could get a trade possibly rolling with Addison Russell, who I want to see leave. But no, back to your original topic. The Nationals aren't going to do anything. Even later in the year, they've been known to fall off just like the Brewers have. I just don't see them putting anything together.
They've been able to fall off at the end of the year because they've always had such a big lead.
Yeah.
Because they do so phenomenal in the first half of the season, and it just hasn't translated so far this year. Now, you talked about Bryce Harper, and there's always magical things happen around that boy and his sexy hair. But so you can't ever really count him out, especially when he's leading the league in home runs or is one behind Mike Trout right now. He's still hitting phenomenal. He's still an outstanding player. Really hope it does decline for them, like you said, so maybe the Cubbies can work something out. But don't ever count them out. They still are a good team. They've got 4 phenomenal pitchers. They've got Bryce Harper. They've got the pieces. They're just having a hard time putting them together right now.
Real quick, getting back to our original topic, we were on the NL Central. We already talked about Cubs, Dodgers. The Cards and the Indians played as well, a 3-game series. St. Louis came out on top 2-1 during those 3 games. Really, they kind of split this week so far, the Cubs and the Cards. This is good news for Chicago, but is this good news for St. Louis? Do you think that they can make a run for the second spot in that division?
I feel like it's fantastic news for St. Louis, basically because they're hanging right there with the Cubs. They're not winning.
Only 2 games back right now.
Yeah, they're 2 games back. They were, almost 5 back from Chicago.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, now they're only 2 back from the Cubs. No, this is good news for St. Louis. The fact that they can stay right there. Still 4.5 out of first. St. Louis is on a heater, Milwaukee's on a heater right now. They have been on a heater their whole first half of the season. But no, it means nothing but good things for St. Louis. Because when the Cubs are losing, they're winning. And when the Cubs are winning, they're still winning. So right now they're hot. They're going to stay hot for a little while, but after the All-Star break, I'm not really too concerned about St. Louis. But they have been known to get hot right at the end of the first half of the year and then stay hot. But I feel like they won't make a wild card appearance, basically for the fact that the Braves are too good, the Cubs are too good, the Dodgers, they could potentially sneak in there. That's a hot take, but I don't know. That's a stretch, and the Brewers too.
Well, we've seen the Dodgers can be competitive. It just how competitive can they be?
Well, right now with everybody hurt, they can't.
Right, but when everyone comes back healthy, I mean, how good can they be? How much of a run could they possibly get going?
Well, we saw them make it to the World Series last year.
Right.
They can make a run if they
can.
are in it.
I'm saying, would they be able to do it again?
If they get everybody healthy, and they get some decent pitching, get some more pitching, yeah. Because they need somebody to help out Rich Hill and Kershaw.
Yep.
That's just their only downfall. They got the position players, they just don't have the pitching. And losing Kenley Jansen, that hurts too, because that dude is just a unit on that mound in the closer. Because in the closing position, because he's throwing almost 100, 102 consistently.
Every pitch.
And he throws like almost a 87 mile an hour slider. That's unreal for a slider. But no, I'm not really worried about anybody out there in the West. I am worried about St. Louis making a decent run. They are hot. If they can stay hot, I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Like you said, though, this is nothing but good things for St. Louis.
Yeah.
Hanging around the Cubs is a great thing for them because if they don't, they're going to fall out and never come back. The season's almost over if they fall out now. So they have to hang around. They have to keep playing like they're playing. And keep it at least close if they are thinking about being competitive down the road. So nothing but good things that they're only 2 games back right now. They might be able to make a little bit of a run here. So good for them.
I want to touch on one thing about St. Louis. One last thing real quick. That's Jack Flaherty. Have you guys seen him pitch this year? That 22-year-old righty coming out of California. He's in his rookie season. Nobody thought he was going to do what he's doing right now. He's won 6 games in a row. So I think it's either 5 or 6. 22 years old, winning 6 games in a row in the NL Central, taking 1 from Cleveland, taking 1 from Milwaukee.
Well, St. Louis have had some guys struggle this year, so if you need fresh blood to come in and give you some W's, that's what you need to do.
Jack Flaherty is that answer.
He's won more games straight than most of the Cubs pitchers have wins total this year, regardless.
Yeah.
Jack Flaherty is a stud. He is going to dominate the NL Central as long as he is with St. Louis. And hopefully St. Louis realizes what they have in Jack Flaherty. And Mike Matheny probably doesn't realize it. Nope. Mike Matheny's one of the best catchers to ever play the game, but he's the worst manager in MLB. Hopefully they realize what they have in Jack Flaherty and they keep him because he is nothing but a valuable asset. And Yadier Molina, these next couple seasons that Yadi has left on his contract is going to make him a phenomenal pitcher because that's what Yadi does.
This is something that came out yesterday at about 8 o'clock. The Texas Rangers are looking to deal Cole Hamels in a trade before the All-Star game. Is this something that could happen potentially? And if it does, where would he go?
I don't know where he goes. He's a phenomenal pitcher. He's put together great seasons in the past. Shin-Soo Choo, though, for Texas, he's also a free agent right now as well. So if Choo decides to stay, if Hamels decides to leave or vice versa, I don't know what that does for Texas. They're already bad. I don't blame Hamels for wanting to get out because he's still got 6 or 7 good seasons left in that arm of his. I don't know. I don't know where he goes. If he wants to stay in the AL, I could see him going to the Mariners. Mariners make a deal for him because they've got somebody on the coming up as a free agent too before the deadline. A reliever, I believe.
Well, so that and the Mariners would need some help in trying to catch the Astros right now, being 3.5 out of first place.
If they get Cole Hamels, the Mariners, if he goes there, then that will automatically help their chances of getting into the playoffs because that guy can give you 7+, and he can throw consistent heat, and he can throw consistent strikes and get guys out.
Hamels played for the Phillies, right?
Yeah,
he pitched for them.
Started with the Phillies.
He was basically the only good thing about that Phillies team.
Yeah.
And now he's basically the only good thing about the Rangers team.
Do you think he could go back to Philly?
And I wouldn't.
I
wouldn't hate to see Philly make a play for him. Be great to have him back. Add another good starter to their rotation to kind of throw alongside Arrieta and them others. It would be a really good play for Philly. I don't really see it happening.
I don't either.
I could see Kansas City making a run for him too. That'd be good for them. Good pitcher on a bad team. Kind of sucks to see his talent go to waste there, at least this season.
But as long as you acquire him, there's always next year because he's under contract.
Yeah.
So that's good news for whoever's willing to take a gamble on Hamels right now. But getting back, one more question for you guys. The Cubbies, they got a 9-game homestand right now. They're going to be facing the Minnesota Twins, Detroit Tigers, Cincinnati Reds. Again, they're going to take the Reds at home this time. Out of these 9 games, could potentially be sweeps. These are sub-500 teams. What do you expect them to do here in the next couple weeks?
They all need to be sweeps.
Yeah.
They need to sweep all of the 3 of these series. But I'm kind of nervous. Yes, they were playing the Reds at Great American in Cincinnati. I understand that. You get swept by the Reds going in, that's going to kill your confidence because they're the worst team in the NL Central. They're one of the worst teams in baseball. I'm nervous about that series. I know I probably shouldn't be because it's the Cincinnati Reds, but that's just me. I'm kind of concerned about it. Going against the Dodgers and the Twins, though, I'm not really too concerned about the Dodgers. The Tigers, I'm not really worried about the Tigers or the Twins for that matter. The Twins barely beat the White Sox. No offense to the White Sox, but they're bad, and so are the Twins.
Sorry, Dad.
The Tigers, they're second in the NL or the AL Central, basically because they're the second best team, right behind Cleveland, who just lost 2 games to St. Louis. So that just shows you right there, Cleveland's not that good either.
I would be content seeing them win 7 of 9. I would be
real quick. We got some
ecstatic.
breaking news. Today is Friday, the last day for NBA free agents to opt out of their contracts. LeBron James has just opted out of his contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers to become an unrestricted free agent. Will not pick up his $35.6 million player option.
What a shocker!
Called it.
Just putting that out there right now. That just happened. I believe it is 9:45 in the morning Central Time. LeBron has opted out of his player option with the Cavaliers. Could indicate that he's on his way to the Lakers.
Yeah, he's going somewhere. We just sat here 35 minutes ago and said that he wasn't going to stay in Cleveland. So
right. Well, we weren't sure if he was going to pick up that option. That must mean he's been talking with either PG or Kawhi, because this pretty much guarantees that he's going somewhere with somebody.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what the rest of today has to offer, who else is going to opt out, and what tomorrow, the first day of free agency, is going to bring.
But going back to baseball, 7 of 9, yeah.
I would be content with that. Like you said, they're all subpar 500 teams. The Reds do make me a little nervous considering they just swept us, but we're in Wrigley this time. I think we got a little confidence taking 2 from the Dodgers. Rizzo got a little bit off of Kershaw. Javi's still hitting good. I'd like to see everybody else. Maybe the pitching will finally start to come around. But since little confidence boost playing some subpar teams, I would love to see 3 sweeps here, get 9 games at home for their homestand. Really need it right now. It'd be nothing but great for them.
We need to sweep all 3 of these series. We need to take all 3, and then we need St. Louis to lose, and we need Milwaukee to lose, which probably isn't going to happen. But if that doesn't happen, if them teams don't lose, we need to take all 9 of these games, or at least 7. So,
7 out of 9 would be great. At least get 1 sweep, maybe even 2 if you want to. If you want to drop, a 1 series 1-2, and then get a couple sweeps, I think you're in good shape. But one more thing I want to ask you guys, since we're on the topic of free agency, the Orioles now have sole possession of baseball by a full 2 games behind the Royals. Where's Machado going?
Out of Baltimore.
Well, we know that he's gone. So where do you think is a good fit for him, or what team's willing to gamble on him or need him?
Chicago needs him. Chicago needs him. St. Louis needs him. A lot of NL teams need him. I feel like he's going to leave the AL, to be real honest.
I think the Cubs would have a hard time affording Bryce Harper next year if they pick up Machado, though.
Well, they'll only sign Machado to like a 1-year deal or whatever, or the rest of the half of the season. However, I'm not real sure how that works. They'll sign him for a pretty decent
they'll
amount,
have to pick up his contract from Baltimore because he's not.
Which is only 1 year.
Right. Okay.
So, but he is able to opt out and go into free agency this year. So it'll only be 1 season.
That works out well then.
But we can dump Russell. I do not want to see Albert Almora go. Albert Almora needs to stay.
Oh, no, he's playing great.
Albert Almora, there's a statistic going on. I heard this on the Will Cain show the other day. Surprising because Will Cain's a big basketball guy. But he was saying that when Albert Almora starts in center field and leads off, the Cubs are 15-5. When somebody else is leading off and Albert Almora's not in there, They're 5-15. So that's got to be a little bit of a trend for Joe Madden to realize maybe he needs to keep Almora. And what do you do with Hap? Hap can hit home runs. Almora's only got 2 home runs this season. Hap's got 15. Yeah, but Albert Almora is a situational hitter. He will get on base. He plays his heart out every game, every play, because when he's out there, he's diving.
There was that game a couple weeks ago. He had 4 diving catches in one game and ran into the wall twice.
Running full steam into the wall. He's out there just giving everything he has to prove to Joe Madden that he deserves playing time.
Playing good American baseball.
That's what he is.
Well, and we know that Madden, not really much of a statistic guy. It's more of a gut feeling kind of guy. But if he's willing to look at those stats and see that he's got a 75% win percentage with Almora in center field.
Batting leadoff.
And absolutely. Throw him in there. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just keep going. I think that's a great point that you made, and hopefully someone else sees that, because if Will Cain's able to notice that, not even being a baseball fan, then I'm sure someone else has noticed it as well.
But no, back to the Machado discussion. I don't know what's going to happen. I'd really like to see him come to Chicago, but that's gonna mess with our chances of getting Bryce Harper. Then I don't really want to tamper with that. But at the same time, Mike Trout too. He could potentially be leaving L.A. because they're bad. They're
very
just
bad.
As bad as everybody else out there. So maybe we could get a Mike Trout. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see what Machado does. I just feel like the Cubs may or may not make a move on him. It depends if the right pieces fall into place.
I mean, the Angels, I don't think it's so much that they're bad, just that they're in a pretty good division. I mean, they are bad, but when you're still 500 and you have to go up against Oakland, Seattle, and Houston, I mean, it's kind of tough because you got to play them more than anyone else during the season.
Right.
One last thing before we end the MLB discussion here. I got an American League question for you guys. I know that you're big with the NL, but Boston has sole possession of first place now for the first time in a few weeks. They have a 1-game lead on the Yankees. I want to know right now. I know it's almost July, and we still have a few months to go, but who comes out of that division? Who comes out on top of that division?
I've said it all season. It's going to be Boston.
Agreed.
Giancarlo and Aaron Judge aren't putting up Giancarlo and Aaron Judge numbers, and I'm glad because I can't stand Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton.
I just can't stand the Yankees.
I can't stand the Yankees. I can't stand anybody that plays for him. I liked Giancarlo when he was in Miami, but I will never follow him. I hope he strikes out every plate appearance he is at now. I just can't stand Giancarlo, but I feel like Boston's going to win that division outright.
Well, and I think they'll get to those Stanton and Judge numbers eventually. Give them the rest of the season. But the problem is the rest of their team isn't really going to move with them when they make that jump and get to their numbers.
Except for one guy, and that'd be Gleyber Torres.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. But Boston, you've got guys like Mookie Betts hitting home runs at 6 foot. And a couple of other guys,
JD
5'11",
Martinez.
6'2",
Yep.
5'10". They're not very big guys, but they're all just playing at the top of their game this season. There's a reason that they're on top right now. I think they'll continue that, and I think they'll finish the season on top too.
Yep, I got Boston winning that division outright. New York ain't gonna be able to keep up with Boston here in a couple weeks. I feel like they're just gonna puffer out eventually.
Well, we know they have a big series coming up.
Yeah.
So New York, Boston, big rivalry going on, and that's going to be a fight for sole possession of that.
If this series was about 3 weeks later, if it was about mid-July, I would say whoever won this series is going to win that division. But I don't want to say that yet because we're not in July. Anything after the All-Star break is when I'll start saying stuff like
Well,
that.
if Boston ends up sweeping the Yankees this time around, it could be a good indication of what's to come.
Yeah.
That's a big turn of events there. That puts Boston up 5 games.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's a big season sweep right there.
Absolutely. And if you're up 5 games coming into July and you're fighting for 1 and 2, especially in the AL East where, I mean, I know it's top heavy.
That division's so good.
But I would say it's good, but I mean,
most of that division is so good.
When you get Toronto and Baltimore down there, I mean, Toronto's not Baltimore, but we're still not very good. We're still 6 games under 500, and we got some good pieces, which I don't understand. I feel like if we were in any other division, we'd be above 500 right now.